Te presentamos 4G, una tecnología que no requiere cambio de chip en tus equipos LTE. Consulta áreas de cobertura en personal.com.ar. Personal, cada empresa es un mundo.
Galeno, siempre pensando en vos.
Estamos en el 7º Salón Internacional del Automóvil. Aquí se reúnen 20 marcas que han presentado 270 vehículos. Hablamos con sus protagonistas, que nos contaron cuáles son las expectativas para este año y los desafíos que enfrenta la industria automotriz. El sector automotriz es una de las industrias o sectores más dinámicos que tiene nuestro mercado. ¿Cómo ves que eso se manifiesta en este 7º Salón del Automóvil?
Yo creo que la tecnología es lo que más nos va a llamar la atención. Yo creo que el camino de la conectividad es un camino sin vuelta. Motorizaciones es una gran duda. Nosotros siempre hablamos de motorizaciones a nivel global que se empiezan a reducir. Hablamos de tamaño de motores menores.
El cliente hoy busca distintos, justamente un mix distinto. Y por eso la gama de vehículos de Chevrolet apunta justamente a entender cuál es el estilo de vida de cada consumidor.
¿Qué crees que espera y busca la gente que viene con sus familias los fines de semana? Porque esto realmente desborda de gente cuando viene a recorrer cada uno de los stands.
Y ver autos lindos. Me encanta poder ver todos juntos los autos más lindos que se pueden ver en el país y algunos que no se pueden ver normalmente en el país.
Ustedes presentan productos de alta gama, productos también que van a las familias, con calidad, con tecnología y con diseño. ¿Qué busca el cliente de Fiat, por ejemplo?
Seguramente el cliente de Fiat busca una marca, un mundo que lo pueda acompañar.
¿Cuáles son las expectativas que tienen de este salón?
Muchísimas, la verdad que es una posibilidad para poder mostrar con hechos concretos que el compromiso de Ford para traer los productos globales realmente se cumplió y que además ese compromiso se reafirma con un montón de novedades que anunciamos hoy.
¿Cuáles son esos productos globales?
Bueno, tenemos varias novedades. Primero, hace un mes introdujimos en el mercado el nuevo Mondeo. Hoy anunciamos la renovación del Focus con más tecnología y el último nivel de diseño a nivel global.
¿Cómo estás, Ricardo?
Bien, muy bien, Chocho. La verdad que estar en el Auto Show es como para un chico ir a Disney.
Lo dijiste bien, ¿no? Porque para los fanáticos tuercas esto es Disney.
Sí, totalmente. Y no solo los fanáticos de los fierros, a las personas que le interesen las marcas, las estrategias de las compañías. Acá se puede ver de todo porque se aprende de eso también.
Contame qué expectativas tenés en relación a Renault de cara a un año de elecciones y un año donde la inflación, la restricción a las importaciones juegan un rol importante.
Sí, fue un año complicado, un año que tiene un mercado aproximadamente de 600.000 autos igual que el año pasado. La verdad es que no fue un mercado como el 2013, cuando uno compara todo con el 2013, que el mercado fue 900.000, por supuesto no fue un buen mercado, pero un mercado razonable al fin. Sufrimos un poco de lo que contás, pero en este segundo semestre tuvimos la suerte de lanzar hace muy poco tiempo el Sandero nuevo, el nuevo Sandero, el nuevo Stepway, una nueva fase de Duster. Tenemos estos lanzamientos con el Renault, con el Duster Oroch, así que creemos que este segundo semestre, la verdad, vamos a tener disponibilidad, ya que bueno, tenemos como decís una mayor capacidad de dólares gracias a nuestras exportaciones, así que bueno, nos espera un segundo semestre muy bueno.
¿Qué diferencia tienen los vehículos 4x4 con respecto a la oferta en general que se ve de autos en este salón?
Bueno, nosotros con la marca Jeep somos especialistas en vehículos 4x4 o todoterreno. Aquí tenemos autoridad en el segmento, estamos con una presencia importante en el stand, presentando algunas novedades que son realmente significativas para nosotros. Y bueno, los vehículos 4x4 es algo que a la gente le gusta mucho porque les permite disfrutar la naturaleza haciendo paseos por lugares que en un vehículo normal no podrían llegar.
Banco Ciudad te quiere ver crecer. 0822 20400 bancociudad.com.ar.
Aprender es mucho más que estudiar. Universidad Abierta Interamericana. www.uay.edu.ar. El futuro sos vos.
Audio Maceta, tranquilidad para un buen viaje. Una empresa del Grupo OMI.
Mrs. Irene Natividad, you are president of the Global Women Summit. Thank you so much for having us here at São Paulo.
Well, I'm delighted to be here talking to you.
I would like to know, how did you started with the idea of this global summit?
Well, in the United States, I was already one of the leaders of the women's community. I moved from New York to Washington because I was elected president of the National Women's Political Caucus. I need for women to find ways to make more money, because if you have economic power, you will then have political power. The two are not separate. So then I said, well, I don't want to talk about the problems women face in the world's economy. I want to talk about how we can fix it. So that's how it evolved. That's how it's different, and it's still the same. We only focus on business and economics, and we only look at solutions. What are possible winning strategies that worked somewhere else that I can take home to my country? And then it had to be global. So those were the three pieces. That it had to be on business, that it had to be solutions oriented, and thirdly, it had to be global.
The Global Summit of Women have done a very interesting research worldwide. They have researched among 100 most important international corporations in Latin America, and you found out that, for example, in the United States, 20% of women reach to the top, while only 6% of the women reach to the top in countries as Brazil. Why do you think there's such a huge gap?
It's a culture in which women's roles are prescribed, and women buy into those stereotypes and those roles as well. And when we were doing our research, we found that for many Brazilian companies and Latin American companies, the whole idea of gender diversity is considered sort of like a fringe activity. It's not considered central to their strategic planning, for instance, for the company. In the US, it's much more, the Europeans call diversity an American concept. They said, well, you had to do it because you had black people and you got Latinas and yeah, we did. It's a country of immigrants, but so is Brazil. So is Europe now. We have to deal with diversity because people are crossing borders. And half of those people are women.
Where did you start the first Women Global Summit? And I know it was 25 years ago. I would like to know as well, what were the main changes that have been going on among these years?
Well, there are changes vis-a-vis the summit, and there are changes vis-a-vis the status of women. It started in Montreal, Canada in 1990, and it was a group of us. In terms of the summit itself, clearly it has changed in size. It has also changed. It used to be more Western oriented, but I've worked really hard on global. So there are now many more countries that participate, and countries really work hard. They're very proud when they host it. So Poland is here, they're the next host. They have 4 ministers here. They have the Deputy Speaker of Parliament. They have 29-member delegation, and they are hosting the closing reception. They're very proud that they are the next host. Now, in terms of the status of women, 25 years ago, you had less women in the workforce. You now have more. 25 years ago, you probably didn't have women CEOs. We have some now, but they're still few.
Why do you think there's so many girls that attend to universities, but there's so few that reach to the top of the ladder or the corporate ladder?
It's called discrimination. And that has not changed. I always say women are immigrants to the workforce, to corporations. It is not their country, it is not their language, it was not created for them, and so they have to try to enter a work world that wasn't designed for them, designed for women who have children, designed for women who get older. And so they have to actually learn another language, learn how to navigate that world. There was actually a study in the US of, 20,000 college students, young men, young women. They're exactly the same. Same training, both had lack of experience. Well, what they found is even at the beginning, the women were offered lower salaries than the men, who also had no experience. So that pay gap follows you. And then if a woman takes time off to have a child, her income is reduced 20%. And that gets bigger and it carries, which is why there is no country that has solved what's called the wage gap. There's no country where women are paid as much as men. There's still no value placed on women's work.
Do you think it is really a matter of discrimination, or only a matter of discrimination, or maybe they don't feel confident enough, or they don't want to pay the cost that it means to reach the top?
That's called blaming the victim. It has nothing to do with that. There's no lack of ambition among women. But if you don't see that it bears fruit, if you don't see somebody up there that looks like you, if you're not encouraged, if you're told you're lesser than, then you're not going to dream to be on top. I mean, that's a frequent argument that corporations make. Oh, women really don't want to compete that much. They want to have an easier life. And when they have a child, they really don't want to. Really? No. The women I know who have succeeded have always wanted to be on top. There's no lack of when they interview young men and young women in every country, the young women have the same ambitions.
The slogan of this Global Summit this year is Creative Women, Creative Economies. How do you manage to encourage creativeness and get better results in our economies?
Well, we actually had some creative women whom we featured here. You know, my favorite is this 19-year-old whom we had at the opening ceremony, this young Brazilian woman, Raisa Mueller, who developed this sponge that would soak up dirty oils from waterways. And all she needs now is to scale it up. It's so innovative that Harvard recognized her. She did a video to compete, and I watched the video and I was so proud. I mean, this kid, you know, figured out something. That's innovation, and that's the next generation.
Why do you think for women is so challenging and difficult to climb the corporate ladder?
I love it. I think entrepreneurship is the key to women's economic independence. It doesn't mean you don't strive for corporate leadership. Some women will choose that, but a lot more women are going into entrepreneurship. And it is a growth sector in terms of women's economic engagement, and that is global. When you look at micro businesses, 80% women. When you look at SMEs, small and medium enterprises, right now 30% globally. In my country, the United States, is 40.4%. So I think that is the key, because the foundation of every economy in the world is small business. Women are now the drivers of it. The majority of new small business owners in the United States are women.
If you could share your experience through the years, which would be your main advice for ladies that have the urge or the need to break this crystal roof?
There's no such thing as an easy road to success, whether you're a man or a woman. And for women, the barriers are double, if you will. But if you don't go for it, it's not going to happen. You know the mantra, dream success, and you will get it. If you think failure, you will fail. So begin with thinking optimistically. All leaders are optimists. because they think something will get better, right? So if you're not an optimist, if you don't believe in yourself first, no one else will believe in you. So begin with this and, and drive it.
Well, I would like to know a little bit more about your organization. For example, what would be the next summit? How long it takes for you to organize this event? And is it a nonprofit organization?
Oh, we're not crazy. Nobody wants to run any organization that's short on money. So I spend a lot of time raising money for what we do, whether it's the research, the summit itself, or any of the programs that we do. It's just, I think about it as breathing. If you're head of a university, your number one job in the States is to raise money for the university. If you're the head of a museum, your number one job is to raise money. So I have to raise money for what we do. It's just part of it, part of a nonprofit's president's life. It takes a lot of time. We try to be 2 years ahead with every summit, but because we move all over the world, the way you do business in one country is not the same way you do it in another country. The speed is not the same. We start from zero each time.
Considering all that you have done to encourage the performance and the role of women in corporates and politics, what are your expectations for the next 25 years?
Well, since I'm already 66, it's kind of, I hope I'm here 25 years from now and can still walk. I hope we don't need the Global Summit of Women 25 years from now. But at the pace of change, or progress, as we say, I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen. The reason why, there are vehicles like quotas that we talk about is because it speeds things up. Instead of waiting 50 years, 25 years, if you set a deadline, in 2 years from now, 30% of board seats must be held by women. When there's a law like that, then everybody has to comply, and it's within a certain period of time.
So you certainly do agree that it's very important to create quotas for women to have participation in the board of directors of the companies?
Any mechanism, including quotas, that speeds up women's progress towards leadership of any company, I am all for it. Whether it's a stock exchange making gender diversity a listing requirement, as in Australia, or the quota that Norway launched and which is now being used successfully in many countries, just do it. Quotas are working. Corporate governance with gender diversity language is working. What is not working is doing nothing and thinking that women will rise naturally to leadership.
Why do you think that women have a better performance in the political sector than in the economical or business sector, for example?
Because in politics you can mandate things. If you heard the German minister said the reason she was there was because of a political quota that said 30% of seats in any party must be given to women candidates. And so she got in that way. But once she got in, then you have to perform. There's this estimation that once you have a quota and you reach the numbers, that you're sailing along. You've got to do well.
Do you see strong differences between women or men leadership?
Women do tend to think more horizontally. What do you think? What do you think? And then let's all, the men, it's more, vertical. It's what I say, that's in itself a simplification. But most of the time, there's a profound difference.
What would be your advice for women that earn 20 or 30% less than a man doing the same job? How do you think they should manage this conversation inside their corporation?
Well, but you can't. Salaries are hidden secrets. most women don't know that they don't earn as much as men. The reason why women government workers, the pay gap is less is because salaries are advertised. There's a range and it begins here and it ends here. So the pay gap is much less in women who work in governments. It is larger in companies because there's no transparency. You're not supposed to talk about salaries, so you don't know that you're making less. It's only statistics that have shown.
How important do you think is to stimulate the self-esteem in the kids while they are very young?
Absolutely. It's not just self-esteem, although the young women that I've seen are full of it. They have to learn how to negotiate. The reason why men have higher salaries is because they negotiate from the beginning. Women are just so happy to get any job, they go, yes, I'm yours. They don't, and they have to learn how to negotiate for the next level and the next level. Even given that, there are studies that show that when women do negotiate, it's a fine line. They're seen as pushy. It's like we're damned if we do and damned if we don't. If we don't get the salary. When we do, oh, you better watch out for that one, So when I told you that women are immigrants to the workforce, it is not their world.
You were born in the Philippines. How did you end up living in Washington?
Well, my father worked for American companies, and so it started early. So when we left the Philippines when I was 5, and we lived in different countries. I had my education in American schools in different countries. So junior high and high school were in Iran at the American Community School there during the Shah. And then I graduated high school from Athens, and then I wanted to go to college in the United States.
I would like to talk a little bit about your personal life. Do you have any children?
I have one son, and he's actually downstairs volunteering to work here at the summit.
Have you felt the strong support from your family through the years?
I always tell young women who ask me what is the best advice you could give me, I said, find the right man. And I did. I have an Italian husband who's been very supportive, and without him, I couldn't do the work that I do.
How do you stimulate the emotional intelligence that is so important in your own life and in the life of others?
For me, it's not hard. It's part of my genes. I have a lot of passion for what I care about, and I'm doing the work that I want to do. So it's not hard to gin up the emotions on behalf of the issues that I care about.
I'm curious about knowing, how many hours do you work a day?
All the time. But it's work that I enjoy and that I care about. I don't separate personal from work. They're intertwined. And when you do something that you love, it isn't work.
What do you like to do during your free time or your weekends?
I like to eat. I'm a foodie. I like great restaurants. I love the ballet. So I try to catch performances as often that I can. I love jazz. I love dancing. I love music.
Who do you admire?
There are many. I admire that 19-year-old I talked to you about. I admire people who are established. I had political mothers who taught me a lot. 3 members of Congress who were very influential in how I think. So I have, my gosh, all over the world, there are women I admire.
Please share your secret, and how do you manage to keep your energy so high?
I don't know that I have a lot of energy. It's just, I guess I was just born with it. My mother was like this. So I guess I inherited it.
What would be your final message on this 25th anniversary for the Global Summit of Women?
Let's not wait another 25 years to move the benchmark for women's progress. Let's move a lot faster in the next 25.
What does it mean to you to be a woman?
To be a woman. To be a woman who's trying to lead other women into hopefully equality, it means I was given a gift. I don't have to think about when I wake up in the morning what my life should be like. I know what it is about, and that's a gift. Because there are lots of people who are still wondering what to do with their lives. And I'm doing what I like to do. So.
Te presentamos 4G, una tecnología que no requiere cambio de chip en tus equipos LTE. Consulta área de cobertura en personal.com.ar. Personal, cada empresa es un mundo.
Galeno, siempre pensando en vos.
Banco Ciudad, te quiere ver crecer. 0822 20400, bancociudad.com.ar.
Aprender es mucho más que estudiar. Universidad Abierta Interamericana. www.uay.edu.ar. El futuro sos vos.
Premium Assistant, tranquilidad para un buen viaje. Una empresa del Grupo OMI.